Today, my guest is Tammy Lynn. She is a publicist and the founder of Spotlight PR. She has been doing publicity for over 20 years and has worked in New York and Los Angeles with some of the top PR companies in the business. I am so thrilled to introduce you to a publicist of mine who I just love and I think is worth her weight in gold. Please help me welcome Tammy Lynn. Hello.
Hello. Well, thank you.
Yes.
I think you're worth your weight in gold, too.
Well, thank you. Let's unpack it for the actor who knows nothing about
Okay.
PR. So what is PR?
Okay. There are different sectors of PR. What I
For an actor.
for an actor or a creator, of
Okay.
a filmmaker. There is PR. The kind of PR that I deal with is press outreach. So I'm a publicist who deals strictly with trying to get some buzz in the media for whatever it is that you're working on, or for you as an individual. Okay. Then there's also marketing, and PR and marketing, they go hand in hand. A lot of people lump them all together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the marketing is all of that other ways that you would promote directly to the audience or the public, right? So that can be social media, it can be paid advertising. Those are all marketing tools. It can be a piece of press that you take and email out to a new rep you're trying to capitalize and get, right? That then becomes a piece of marketing, a marketing tool for you. But PR, so a lot of people, you lump all of that into one group. But what I focus on strictly is press outreach and trying to gain that credibility about you and your work through getting somebody who doesn't know you to cover you, to write a story about you, to interview you, to put you, as the topic of their article or of their show, a podcast. It can be lots of different types of outlets, right? Whether it's online or something in person or on the radio, a podcast. I mean, there are tons of different types of media out there.
So as an actor, why do I need a press person?
Okay, so to gain attention, right, to your talents, right? That's the goal is I want people to know I'm out there, that I exist, that I can get attention, that I'm good, that I'm skilled, that I want to be hired again, and the more people see you from a credible source, right? It's not your mom saying, oh, check out my daughter who's on this show. It's a reporter. It's somebody who doesn't know you. So it automatically raises the credibility level when you share that or when somebody sees that. It can help you also gain fans, right? Just from whoever reads or sees or hears or whatever that interview or that article. But I like to, at this level, at the sort of the level of a working class actor or creator, indie creator, I like to look at it as it can give you marketing tools that you can't get, that adds that credibility that you can't get anywhere else. It shows that you're a professional. It shows that you're in the game, without really you having to toot your own horn. A lot of people stress about that, right? Is I don't want to feel like I'm bragging. I don't want to be that person. This is a way that suddenly people can read all about you and what you're doing in your work. And it's not you going, look at me, look at me. It's a reporter going, look at her, look at her, look at her. So it doesn't feel so icky, because a lot of people feel icky with it.
So let's talk about some of the misnomers that actors have regarding publicity. Because what comes to mind is, well, if I'm doing a project, the production company
is going to do it.
That's right.
No. I have worked with, now, the production companies usually choose 1 to 2 people that they use for their promotional campaign, right, for that project. It's usually the star, could be the director, right? A lot of the times, especially if the director is also the creator of the project and they're, the producer, or they wrote it or any of that. And they'll probably choose their main star. So if you are that person, that's great. But you'll notice celebrities also still keep their own publicist, even though the production is also promoting that. And why is that? Because
you were reading my
yes,
mind.
The reason is because your own personal publicist is there for you, not just for this project. They're looking at, right now we're going to use this project to position to get you some opportunities, but we're going to plant seeds for all of the other things that you're working on. And you have the ability then to talk about not only this project, but what you've previously done and what you're doing next. And that comes into play especially for people who are creating their own content. So if you're working on and you're hired to be an actor on somebody's film, but you're also creating your own projects, well, if the production team sets up that interview for you, the only thing you're allowed to talk about is that production. If your own publicist sets up the interview for you, not only are you going to talk about that film, but you're going to talk about the one you're creating. It widens the door for you as an artist altogether. And that's really why I tell people it's smart for you, even if they're going to do some, and I work with teams all the time. I work with the PR team for a project or at a studio, and we're in constant contact if I'm repping or working with one of the people that that is in that project. But it's smart to have your own if you can, and if there's a need. Again, it goes back to your goals, your needs, and your budget.
I'm an actor. I'm contemplating publicity.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a checklist that I should start putting together?
Okay, the best time to sort of work with a publicist is when you have something coming up that's going to premiere. And the reason for that is because that's when the press is going to have the most interest in you. It's hard for a reporter to create a story about somebody who has nothing going on currently, right? They're going to say, well, come back to me in 3 months when that's going to release. Because I have too many other opportunities of something that's releasing right next week. I have to cover those. And they don't tend to cover stuff that's already happened. So what you really want is when you have that window of opportunity leading right up to a premiere and then the immediate few weeks right after. That's your window for gaining and using that as a fresh sort of press opportunity.
And when should I contact you?
I always tell actors, I love to hear from you when you book something. So like early on, because then I can tell you, do you know when it's going to release? That's always one of my first questions is, what did you book? When does it release? And are you allowed right now to even say that you're in it? Or when are you going to be allowed? And that has to be, for most projects, when is it publicly announced that you're in it? If you are listed on IMDb as being in that project, it's public. You can say, I'm in it, and you're allowed to. Usually it has your character's name right there, so you can say that. So anything that's revealed publicly on there, whether it's the synopsis of the project, okay, well then we can say this is what it's about, who the people are that are involved in it. All of that is public knowledge already. So you as an actor who's coming in just as a hired person, you're allowed to continue to share all that information that's already out there. But what you can't do is give away the goods of all the secrets on the project or things that aren't public unless we get approval.
What is an EPK and why does an actor need it?
Okay, an EPK stands for Electronic Press Kit. There are many forms of them and they are used in different ways. An actor specifically, I like to use those in 2 different ways. When you want to highlight a single project, so you can create one just for that project, for you as working in that, or if you're creating stuff, that can be for that too, or one that shows the whole body of your work. And those I like to use instead of telling people, whenever you're looking for new rep, it's smart to send them something visual, right? It's a visual representation of your resume as opposed to just sending it listed. Right? It can be, it can encompass, different things too. It can have links to your reel. It can have a link to your website. It can have, all the basic information, contact information, but then also highlight a few of your main projects that maybe you have great images of you, in this character that maybe is opposite of what you would even normally look like in person.
Right.
Maybe you play something opposite. You look nice, but you play the bad guy. So then it gives a good visual way rather than sending one, headshot and one resume or saying here's where you can find that stuff. It goes a little more in depth. It can include a bio within it or a taste of a bio. It can include.
Now, when you say a taste of a bio,
well, a mini bio.
Okay, so maybe a paragraph,
right?
Okay.
Like a paragraph of your bio. I never a full bio where it's like a page long. Those are great for your website. I don't suggest you send those to IMDb. Keep it for things you control. And we can chat about IMDb.
So, and real quickly,
yes.
You don't want to send it to IMDb because then you can't pull it off.
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
When it comes to sharing anything with websites that you don't own and have control over, just be careful. Be cautious, because you may not be able, in 5 years from now, when it's outdated, you can't get it taken down and it's still there. So your full bio, that is the one that goes really into seriously who you are, your personality, what you do, why you are doing what you're working on, that you have control over on your website. So put that one on your personal website. Put truncated ones, small ones that stick to the facts. Awards you've won, your education, things like that can go on IMDb, because your credits they can get already, right? It's listed there. But like on IMDb, some people include some of their theater, a little more of their theater background in their bio, because it's not focused on theater. It's more focused on film and television. Going back to an EPK, so you can include your bio, you can include your press, clicks to, links. You can pull a blurb or a clip, a taste of different articles that you got. You can encompass all of that, so it gives a broader picture of your whole career.
So it might be good to have 2 EPKs. One that's your personal, the other one on whatever your current project is. That would be a good idea.
You can, if you're going to use that project to go after, if you have a goal for it, right? So I always, whenever I start working, whether it's a full press campaign, a bio, an EPK, anything, I always ask people, what's your goal with this? What are you looking to accomplish? Who are you sending this to, right? Because that's going to matter. Who are you wanting to share this with? Where are you sharing it? Because all of those things, we want to make sure that we're creating something that is appropriate for that audience, for that person, meeting their expectations, things that they look for. An agent's going to look for something different than a fan would. If you're just trying to create an EPK for a fan, or to supplement, to go out to with a press campaign, and you want to send that to reporters to try and encourage them, to do something on you, that's going to be tailored a little different than if you're trying to go after rep.
If I'm an actor and I want to start building my EPK, I don't have a lot of credits. What would your suggestion be? If
you don't have a lot, or you have like one really good one, that's when a mini, like a smaller version of it, could be really good. You could just focus it on that one project, on that one character, on that one role, because if you're using that to try to get more roles like that one, that would be smart.
So it would include a bio.
Yeah.
How many pictures?
That's the main. So when it comes to an EPK, that is really what you're telling, is the story is a visual, because otherwise you just send them your resume, which is written out. So you want to use those photos, and that you can pull photos from behind the scenes, BTS stuff. You can pull if you can get a still from the project, like you in it, great. You can include your headshot. That's usually, I use your main headshot either on the first or the last page, right? And the last page is usually like a contact page. And they don't have to be a lot of pages. If you don't have a lot to work with, that's okay. Highlight what you do. That's the main thing, is just highlighting your strengths, so that I understand your castability. That's really what it comes down to. And sometimes I even I'll ask somebody, well, give me some adjectives that describe your castability, right? And I may even add those words to the front page of, here's their headshot and here's some of the ways, the castability words on that front page, so that people immediately understand, oh, she's funny, she's, high-spirited, and she's, dry sense of humor. Okay, great. So I get it. And then I go on to read a little more about maybe your latest role, which may just be that one role, and see some of those images, and your bio and how you
Would I also include a press release?
You can. Now, sometimes I do. Especially when it's focused on one specific role. If we didn't actually do a full campaign and get you any press so that we can include an article or a piece of an article, then I might write a press release that explains a little of the project that you in it, and I'll include that.
Now, what I think is amazing, the climate that we're in right now, and because of technology, we have a lot of people doing podcasts, a lot of people doing a web series, a scenario. I'm an actor. I've never done a press junket,
Right.
a press
Anything.
interview,
Right.
and so I'm not yet ready, but I want to get ready.
Right.
So would I start doing little podcasts or little?
Okay, so you're like most of my clients. In other words, I work with a lot of people who have never done a press campaign before. And it's a little bit of, if you've got something, if you've got one project right now that we can go with, then it's potential that we really just do it. Whether you do it yourself, you write your own press release. So everybody can do this themselves if you have the time and you don't have the budget to bring in somebody even affordable like me. If you can't, it's okay. You can still do stuff. Write a press release. There are lots of examples online. Google press releases, and you could entertainment press release. Things will come up. You write your own about what you're currently working in. Investigate and research some outlets. Start with your hometown. Most people are not, there are a lot of people from large cities, but even large cities, hone in on your local, those little free circulars. They're always looking for content.
Community papers.
Exactly. It doesn't matter so much. It's funny because I tell everybody, hometown newspapers do the most lovely, beautiful feature style articles with lots of images. They make you look awesome most of the time, right? And when you share that, when that's published then online and you're sharing that link, nobody is going, well, who's that? Who wrote that? What paper was that? Oh, I don't know that. Most people are just seeing the headline or seeing the image and they're clicking and they're going, how cool is that? Mm-hmm. That's why, anybody can do this at any level. Start researching and building your own target list of, okay, who covers, filmmakers on the rise or actors on the rise, people who aren't celebrities that maybe I don't know who they are, but somebody covered them. Well, what's that outlet? Who's that reporter?
Right. And also, there are a lot of online websites that will include you, especially if you're of color, Asian,
exactly.
Latin,
Use
Black.
what you got. That's what
right.
I always say.
Right.
Use what you've got. Hone in. Focus in. There are so many outlets that are specific and written for or published for a specific audience. Look for those. Look for where you fit in. Look for ones you have a connection with, mm-hmm. whether it is being Latino or being African American or being from another country. Often there are ones that, Aussies in America. There are all of these that cover, that have all these sort of niche audiences that you should start to look for.
Now, I believe there are still like the Reporter, the Variety, not sure of Deadline and the Wrap, but some of them will have a little column of who booked what job, and that you can submit to that.
You can, and
with a picture.
I do that. I work with people all the time in reaching out to trades to get their casting announcement, right? Mm-hmm. And that's usually, those outlets, the trade outlets, they report on the business of the business, right? So that's when they're interested. They're not as interested when it's actually going to premiere unless you're a celebrity, right. Or it's some big studio project. But typically they're reporting on when you book the job. You have to have permission from the production in order to even attempt to reach out to them. And because again, it's not public knowledge yet, right?
Unless it's on IMDb.
Well, but if it's on IMDb, the trades won't cover it because they...
Oh, that's good to know.
Good, yes. So don't put your role, we all want to get on there as quickly as we can. Be careful. If you think it might be something that could potentially end up in a trades, they want to be the ones to break the news. They want an exclusive. And you'll only get in one of them typically, unless you're a celebrity, and then they'll cross-do it. But if you're not, one of the publications, if they say yes, the others will not. So you want to go to each one of them individually, right? And they're usually, what I tell people is that project already being reported on in any of those trades? They just haven't reported you maybe being added to the cast. Mm-hmm. If they have already started reporting on that, there may be a chance that they would have interest because they know about the project. Mm-hmm. If they don't know about the project, if it's an indie production, and even if it has some, a director who's starting to, get some heat on them, if the trades haven't covered it before, chances are that's who they would cover. And the production team, again, you have to ask permission. Can I even try to do this? Because they may have their own PR strategy of, no, we're not doing that yet. We're going to wait and put that out to the trades. And then you simply ask, well, can I be included in that press release?
Very good.
And then they do all the work. They incur the cost. They let them handle it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are faux pas or things that actors should never do in going for press?
Well, I think that oftentimes, and I don't know if it's fear-based, it usually is, but people either do nothing or they wait too late. I think those are the two biggest, if you do nothing, you can expect nothing, right? And a lot of people are concerned, especially actors. You're always like, well, that role wasn't that big. I don't know if it was enough. Who's going to care? Stop making that decision and let a reporter make that decision. Just own it. Own that you're working, whether it's a pay job or something that's non-paying, but a cool, character. As long as you feel good about the project, then don't worry about it.
Even if you don't feel good about the project.
But it's hard to promote something that if you don't like the outcome, if you don't feel good about the project. It's different if you didn't like working with somebody, like you can get around that. But I'm talking about if you feel like, well, I don't even want people to know I'm in that project.
But sometimes actors are not good at deciding what they were good in and what they weren't good in.
True.
So to me, I remember years ago I did a movie of the week. I had the best time on it, worked with the best people. It was the most fun I ever had. And then I was like, this is horrible. And I waited to send postcards back in the day when you sent postcards. The day it aired to ensure that nobody saw it. But I sent it out.
Yeah.
Because it was my take on it.
Yes.
It was not necessarily
Correct.
What was real. It was my perception. It's work. I think as actors, work is work is work.
Yeah.
Even if you think it sucked, I'm a big believer that
still promote it.
Somebody's going to say, because they don't have the same mindset you do.
Well, here's the thing, too. And there is something to be said about that, because you do hear of celebrities, it's in their contract. They have to promote something, whether they like the project ultimately or not. They're still on the campaign trail. But you can usually tell when it's a project that they think, maybe it just didn't meet their expectations. Doesn't mean it's a terrible project. Doesn't mean they were bad in it. It just maybe turned out differently than what they expected. And maybe that's a way to approach it. Okay, maybe it wasn't a terrible project. Maybe it wasn't my best work, but it's still a project. It's still decent. We are our worst critics, right?
Right.
So you need to, that's what I'm saying. Put that critic aside. Don't judge yourself. Let somebody else determine if they have interest in covering you as a story. Right, so that to me is one of the biggest.
You can always flip it. You can always make it something else.
Because what you do in that respect too is you talk about how it was a learning experience so you never want to say, oh, that was a terrible project. I hated working on that. It sucked ultimately. No, you talk about it as, it was great because I learned so much by working on that project. And you turn it into a positive, and that's how you then promote it. And that still is authentic. You're not lying, right? Because you probably learned a ton on that movie of the week, because what you ultimately saw wasn't the experience you had. So you have to figure out, okay, so what do I need to do next to ensure that not only am I having fun on set, but that it's showing up on camera. Right? So you learned a lot, I'm sure.
And the truth is that somebody saw it and thought, let's give her a job.
Absolutely.
Because they're thinking, she delivered on the thing.
Right.
We can trust her
with
our project.
Oh, yeah.
But we're very
critical.
Very. So,
which is what it feeds right into why people don't do stuff. Why people don't promote their projects, why they don't do PR. It feeds right into it because it's all fear-based. We're very critical of ourselves. And I think that is the biggest, thing stopping people from doing it, is that they just worry that they're not enough, that their work is not enough, not good enough, not big enough, not worthy. And it's just not true. And
I learned that through stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much through acting,
sink or swim.
but through stand-up.
Yeah.
I would see comics get on stage and have no routine, and they walked off stage like they just delivered the most impressive thing. And I was like, but you didn't do anything.
Right.
And I started to see, wait a minute, it's about perception. Mm-hmm. And so you, no matter how it plays out, you've got to own it. Yeah. You've got to enjoy it. Yeah. And you've got to claim that this is your profession. Mm-hmm. And some performances will be good, and some will be great, and some will be
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're all performances.
That's it.
So
you did it. Nobody else can take that away from you.
That's right.
And it's not easy, right? It's not easy to get up and perform in front of people with a camera rolling and have to, cry or have to make them laugh or have to do whatever it is that you're creating a whole fantasy world about.
Yes.
It's fantasy.
Yes.
Right? And that's not an easy skill. So appreciate that.
That's right.
Whether it turns out the way you wanted it to or expected it to is not up to you, because there are so many other factors. Editing is half of it, right? So, own it.
What is too late?
So I like to start working with people as, in the 3 to 4 weeks leading up to something premiering or releasing at this level. Now, when you get into bigger productions, it may be months. It depends on what your goals are. But if you're looking for just a basic press campaign that's going to get a few online articles, maybe a few interviews here or there, about 4 weeks prior is a good place to start. Mm-hmm. But I've worked with people who have, come to me 2 days before and said, this is happening, we just found out. Okay, well, it doesn't mean that we can't do anything. It just limits your opportunities. Because some reporters and some outlets, press outlets, they need more advance notice, right, than a day. Mm-hmm. Others don't. Some can turn it around really quickly. Some will, like I had said earlier, some will report on it even after it premieres for that 2 or 3 weeks after. You'll see articles still coming in, but we've set them up in advance. It's just they're still coming in. So, but too late to me means the project has aired maybe 3 months ago. It's hard for me to if there's nothing new about it, if it's not still screening on the festival circuit, coming up with a new screening, or there's not a new season of your web series releasing next month, or there's nothing fresh about it, then the reporter really goes, well, why am I covering this right now? Mm-hmm. It always goes back to they need me to create some urgency behind why they need to cover it and write a story about it right now. And it's hard to do when it's something in the past, because then they consider it old news.
Now, is there a difference between doing press on, stuff that's coming up, or hiring a publicist to feature you? Let's say there's an actor that has done a lot of work, who's been around a long time, and to try to get them a feature. Every now and then you'll see on or a lot of those magazines, they'll have one page on somebody.
Right. So those features are things that I go after even when I'm putting out a press campaign with something coming out. Okay. If you notice, when you read those features, most of the time the feature may not focus on the project, but their project is still probably coming out now.
Okay. That's good.
So it's just they've taken the angle of, no, our readers aren't going to care so much that your project is premiering, but they want to hear about, your volunteerism with, young women, and that's what we're going to make the story is about, that and your involvement in that. But the reason, again, that bottom line urgency of why it's in that issue that month is because you have a movie premiering. And you'll notice it in the bottom at the very, as the article's coming to, either in the beginning where they introduce who you are, or it's at the end of, and you can catch her, this month in the new movie, whatever. So there's still that hook of why they did it now. It's still because you're in the news, what your project is releasing, so they know you're probably doing a press campaign, so you're going to already be on the tip of people's tongue. And so they want to capitalize on that too. It's just they won't focus the article on that.
Today, I am thrilled to introduce to you an incredible publicist who kicks butt, not only in Los Angeles, but across the country. His name is Gabriel Reyes, and he is with Reyes Entertainment. And we are so blessed to have him here with us today.
Sí, agarra. Está esa mulata. Ay, mamita, caminando. Dale un poquito para acá.
the number one publicist in Los Angeles for Latinos. What was that thing that drove you to Publicity?
Hispanics have a negative image problem in the United States, and we have for a while now. And the media doesn't help because the media perpetuates it. I thought to myself, you know what, this is crazy. I need to get into a communications career where I'm able to really educate the public. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And I didn't realize how badly needed that was. I went to work with Lee Salters, who was a legendary PR guy here in Los Angeles, who handled Barbra Streisand, Michael Jackson, Roseanne Barr, Frank Sinatra. He handled all the big stars. So I cut my teeth with him. I worked for about a year. The Latino division, I started it for him. So I came in and I started to bring clients in and service them. After a year, I decided to strike out on my own. So I was able to, at that time, secure Latina Magazine, which is another one of my dear, dear friends. It's Christy Halberger, founder of Latina Magazine. And at that time, she was just beginning the magazine. So we met and she hired me as the PR guy. And then I began to work with the studios, with the networks. I became more known to them as somebody who could help them with Hispanic media. And then I began to realize that I didn't want to limit myself to be working with Hispanic media only. I really needed to go out into the mainstream media because that's the people that needed to hear who we are. And so that's also been kind of a hard obstacle to be able to convince people I'm Latino and I know Hispanic media, but that's not all I know. I know also mainstream media and I know media all around the world. I'm a media professional. I'm not a Latino media professional. And so that's also a point of educating people. When they hear any concept, they want to bring it down to the most basic concept that's easiest for them to understand. So somebody can say, well, oh yeah, he's a Latino publicist that works with Hispanic media. And then you have to go back and educate and say, no, I'm Hispanic, but I'm a publicist and I work with all media.
Your first official publicity job was with Lee Salters.
Officially, yes.
Yes. What did you learn working in that office? Because you were working with somebody who was doing publicity for icons, which is very different.
Absolutely. What I learned was I learned a lot of media relations, because media relations is your relationship with the media and how you work with them in order to feed them a story. It's a symbiotic relationship. When you're representing big stars like that, your job is not so much to pitch a story because everybody wants them. Your job is to pick and choose what's going to be the most advantageous thing for your client to do. And so you want to make sure that you are focusing those efforts towards a more positive image, public image for your client, and you're trying to lower the volume on anything that's negative. With talent of that caliber, that's pretty much what you did. In addition to a lot of the day-to-day that a lot of people don't know that is part of being a publicist. You would have to look at dress designers who want to dress them. You want to look at jewelry. You want to look at all those lifestyle elements that this person needs, but you have to pick and choose which are the right ones, and is there a business opportunity tied to them. They need a car, they need a makeup person. There's a lot of sort of planning that goes in before you actually, go out and do the job. Like right now, I'm planning a big premiere. I got to think of every single eventuality that might happen on that red carpet, that might happen in that theater. So I've got to get a checklist going of all the things that I need to do. I need to set up hair and makeup for this talent. I need to set up their cars for it. It's not me that does it. Our team does it. But we have to make sure that all of those things are set for that premiere to come off right. So there's a lot of planning. And so what I learned is all the nitty-gritty that goes into actually representing someone of that caliber. On top of that, as was the case a lot with Michael Jackson, is always the crisis mode. What's today's crisis with him? What are we going to do to get somebody on our side? There's a story that came out, and I would be part of those phone calls that he would have with Michael's team. So I learned also what to do in the case of what they call crisis management for talent. So there's really a lot that has to do with publicity and being a good public relations person. You have to be a great writer. You have to be telling a great story, because what happens is public relations is what they called earned media, because you earn it. You're not paying for it. That's advertising. So as a public relations person, you've got to earn that media by giving that editor the story they want. and the story that's going to make sense for their readers. So you've got to be a great writer, and you've got to be able to craft the story, know what that story is. And I think that that's what makes a good publicist. If I go and somebody hires me and this is the project, I'm going to take a look at every element of that project, and I'm going to see what are the great stories here that I can pull out from this project that are going to be resonating with those editors and those large media outlets, because that's where I want to place this. So they have a specific mission. They got a specific content that they need to deliver for their readers or for their users. I got to figure out what that is, and I got to figure out from my project, how do I translate that to the story they want.
You also have to build relationships
Oh, yes.
with those
The
editors,
medias.
and
That's a big part of it, is really building the relationships, knowing what these editors and these writers write about, what are the specific stories that they would want to write. One of the things that a lot of editors and writers really hate is when a publicist calls them up and pitches them a story that they have nothing to do with, a story that they've never written about, a beat that they're not covering, and somebody's pitching them a story. It upsets them, because it shows them that this publicist doesn't know who they are. So you've got to do your homework. Like, before I go and I pitch a writer, I go back and I look at everything they've written. What can I give them that I have that's going to fit their profile and what they write about? Those are the kinds of things that you do in order to have that relationship with this writer, this editor, that's going to help you to project your client out. But at the same time, you want to be a good source for them. If you're not a friend, I mean, you can't be friends with everybody, but if you're not a friend, be a good source for them. Be somebody who's available to them all the time, and that will always translate into getting good coverage for your client. And I have to say, in my years that I've been a publicist, I've actually made a lot of great friends in the media. You know, I started working with them, pitching them stories, and then we just became friends.
so as a publicist, you are of service not just to your client, but also to those
media.
people that you are seeking to
That's-
run your stories,
that's
or
correct.
talk about your clients.
That's correct. That you build that relationship, you know what they want. So when they get a call from you, they know you're gonna give them something good. And they already know what they expect from you. And so a lot of that is that. And then some of it is getting to know the people who are coming in, because media is like a revolving door, even much more now, because the landscape is so different. We've experienced a huge watershed moment for the last, say, decade, where technology and the demographic change has completely shifted. And so we have now the largest demographics are going to be fastest growing demographics, Hispanics and Asians, people of color. What we're seeing is that white people are not replacing themselves as fast, so their population is shrinking. People of color
They're not
population is
multiplying.
right. So you have to take a look at the demographic and see, okay, who's using the media now in large volumes? And then on top of that, the technology. We've seen a huge technological change, watershed, and so now we see citizen journalists who are just having an iPhone and they're doing stories. There's social media. So for a publicist now, I'm wearing a lot of hats. I'm going to social media and I'm going to bloggers and I'm going to I'm doing different things in order to stay relevant and to adapt. But what has happened is that technology has now enabled a lot of misinformation. And so we are now in all of us must now be responsible users of media. We must now look at every piece of media that we consume and ask ourselves the question, is this true?
Yes.
Where is this coming from? Let me investigate this and not just take this headline and then start to comment on it on my Facebook page. You've got to educate yourself on these issues in order for you to then have an opinion that's valid and that you're not spreading misinformation. There are people who now know that this is a very effective tool to control people. This is a very effective tool to change public opinion. If you just keep repeating a falsehood, and you keep repeating it over and over and over and over, soon you're going to believe it and other people are going to believe it. And we're seeing a lot of that now.
And that is what our current president lives on, is continuing to give false information when he doesn't like the spin on something. He's a great publicist. I think he is the best. I think he missed his calling, because he can spin stuff and just change it into anything he wants. And there are people out there who don't do their homework, won't investigate, and will just take it as, well, he said it and therefore it is. In doing publicity and in going out and talking to people about media, what is your number one point that you make to somebody who hasn't a clue?
If you want to publicize, you have to have a project and you have to have an objective. A lot of people think publicity is just getting your picture in the paper. And for a lot of people, that's enough. But that really shouldn't be enough. You really should have an objective. What do you want to accomplish by getting your picture in the paper? What is it that you're selling? How are you selling it? Who are you selling it to? What? Why? All of those questions you should be asking yourself. And what is going to be the end result? Your objective.
A beginning actor, a beginning musician, they want to start getting publicity. How do they start that process?
If they do not have a publicist hired, which a lot of people starting out can't afford, then they must read up on marketing and public relations and see how they can start practicing that themselves. And by that I mean, now that we have social media, make sure that you put together a very strong, robust social media presence that is unified and that has a brand message to it. I'm guilty of it too, that sometimes we just post too many different things on our feed. You want to be able to be mindful of your brand.
So let's talk brand.
Yes.
What is that?
Brand is who you are. Who do you stand for? What do you stand for? Who are you? What is your mission in life? That's your brand. So when you start your social media, people know what they're going to get in this feed. And that's how you build an audience. And so a lot of times people have too many things in their feed. And so it's a little bit, not confusing, but it's a little bit unfocused. And so it's harder to get the followers. It's harder to get the return people. Because maybe this time it doesn't have anything to do with me, right? The post. But if you're constantly posting and it's always your brand, then those people interested are always coming back. And then you become a destination for them. And then that's how you build it. Now, you want to go into traditional media. You want to get on TV. You want to get on radio. You want to get in newspaper. Now you have to have something newsworthy. So what's your project? What are you doing now? Get out a press release. Call somebody that you know here and get me on TV. So that would be the be the next step. There should always be something newsworthy, because otherwise then if you're just one of these people, like there's a lot of people who are famous that are always in the public eye, and a lot of times they're just always out there. And then sometimes people get tired of them, especially if they're not really tied to any one project or anything, and they're just out there all the time. So you also have to be mindful of that. Just, how often am I out there? Am I...
You don't want to oversaturate yourself.
No. And to be overexposed. So all of those things you have to be mindful of and always achieve balance.
Balance would be?
Balance would be you're on brand, you're on focused, and you're posting once, twice a day. You're not over cluttering. You're
not 15 times.
Not 15 times a day.
Okay.
You're not screaming. You're not being shrill. You're not being offensive. You're just being that neutral voice that is your brand. And so balance is the amount of posts that you're going to post, the tone of the posts, what do you have, how many pictures you have, how many videos you have, how many hashtags, all of that is balance. And then you get into a rhythm. You get into a rhythm. What I do a lot with my clients is that we create a schedule, and they'll have the date, and this is the post, and this is the picture, and this is the hashtag, and this is the video. And that's how we're going to do it. And so we establish a cadence. Now there's all these programs,
yes,
like Hootsuite, where you can do
yes,
all of them across the board. Although I don't recommend that, because each platform is a different audience, it's a different vibe.
Yes.
So I would make each post different according to the platform that I'm in. But I would make sure that I have a schedule and that it has a good cadence, and then I just follow it. And then I'm either posting in real time or I'm scheduling the post. Put together the schedule, and then that way, a month or a week schedule, and then you program it. And all of the subjects that are important for your readers, you got a bucket for each one of them, and then you're posting every once in a while. You're posting on each one of these buckets.
Yes, and also part of social media is giving back. And making sure that it's not just you centered, but that you're actually giving something that's important.
Yes, like you're providing a service. So you have to make sure, like I was just saying, you're providing information they can use. That's key.
Yes, because sometimes if you're looking at other people's feeds, you'll see that it's all me, and I did this, and
right.
It's
you get tired.
A bad rap song.
You want these posts to attract people. And so you want to give people what they want. And so a lot of the times, and a lot of people do this, here's me here, and here's me there, and here's me and I'm doing this, and here's me, I'm doing that. And so after a while, you're just like, okay, great, but there's no engagement. And that's key. Engagement is key. So it's not so much how many followers you have, is how are they engaging with
Yes.
you. You know, you can have 1 million followers, but if you post something and you get 5 likes, you're not doing something right, because you're not getting any engagement.
Right.
So engagement means engage. Give them something, they give you something back. So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so we've covered social media, but isn't there a time when you have to, as an artist, sacrifice and get a publicist to get you to the next level?
Yes.
And what does that look like? Is that a 5-month contract?
It depends on your project.
Okay.
It depends on what you've got going.
Okay.
There are people who are A-listers, who are, you know, big stars, and they've got a publicist all the time because they've got things going on all the time.
They're permanent on their team.
Yes, always, always. If it's somebody that, you know, you work every once in a while, you got a movie coming out, okay, you hire somebody for 3 months till your movie comes out, and then, you know, see
So
where
is that the
gets
standard?
you.
Like if you're doing a movie, 3 months?
3 months
would
is
be,
the standard.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people do less. You know, it just depends on how down
What's
and
most
dirty you want to
effective,
do it.
though?
3
What-
months is most effective.
Okay.
You want to be able to give you the lead time to be able to work everything out.
Okay.
Especially if you want to really have a good, robust campaign. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you have 2 weeks, sometimes you have a month. You have to do what you can.
If I'm going to do a film and let's say I've budgeted for a publicist, do I start the publicist when I'm in pre-production and just kind of work
No,
it?
I would start the publicist once the movie is done and there's a release date, because that's really where it's at.
Okay.
You know, while you're in production is great because, you know, and they'll have unit publicists. Productions
But
will
if
have
you're
a unit publicist. But if you're not independent, then you do what you can, and depending on if you can afford it, sure, get a publicist while you're in production. If you can afford it, because they can send out items, they can talk about what's going on in the set, et cetera, et cetera. Get the path warmed up for when you get ready to release. If you can't afford that, then when the studio says we're going to release at this date, that's when you get your publicist, because then you have the materials, the poster, the pictures, everything you need in order to be able to have the coverage that you want. Because that's another part. Collaterals are your press materials. And it's important for you to have good press materials because it makes it a lot easier for the media to get the story. You don't want them to be calling you every 5 minutes. Now, what was that again? What was that again? You should have, at the very least, a basic press release. And the press release, you can Google, you know, writing a press release.
For a
And there's-
template,
And
yes.
there's lots of templates online. But basically, it's the who, what, where, and when, and why of any project, of anything. So you want to be able to have that. In addition to that, you want to have some good photos, not only of yourself, but of your whatever project, anybody else who's been with you. You want to have some good video. And then whatever other assets that are going to be helping to tell the story. Maybe there's more photos, there's other kinds of behind the scenes, biographies, you know, those kinds of, all the background material. People call it press kits. We used to put them together in folders way back when, you know, you print everything out,
yes.
you put them in folders, you know that. Now they're electronic. We just email them. Sometimes when I have a premiere and I have people coming to me, I give them USBs with all the information in the USB. They can just put it in there. So you have those ready. And then once you're ready and you can go out and start to talk to the media, have your story, and then look at the media professionals that are going to be receptive to your story. So if I have an entertainment story, I'm going to call the entertainment editor. If I have a business story, I'm going to call the business editor. That's very important. The other thing is, if you're going to call that person, make sure that before you call them, you read up on everything they've written. What is their beat? What is their tone? What do they write about? So that when you call them, you're giving them something that they're going to be receptive to. So if there's somebody at the LA Times and they write about artists, visual artists, galleries, stuff like that, you're not going to call them and tell them you got a restaurant opening, right? Because that's not what they do.
Right.
But you will call them and tell them you have an artist, or that you have a piece of art, or that there's a gallery opening. That they'll respond to. So you have to make sure that you go and you pick the right people to approach. And then it's a matter of just really staying with them until you get the result that you need. If you were doing advertising and you have money, then you're able to dictate what you want. But with earned media, you do that. And I know a lot of stars that have friends in the media, because after a while they get interviewed
Right.
several times by the same person. They kind of become friends. So that happens quite a bit. And then it's a lot easier to just call the person and say, hey, I'm doing this, you know, let's do a story. It's a process. Unfortunately, I get calls from people who say, oh, I've got a movie coming out in 2 weeks. I got a movie coming out in a week. And I'm like, I'm not sure what I can do. in 2 weeks. It's too late probably, unless you want to get on the radio next week and I can call somebody to do it. But not a whole concerted effort. It takes time, and it takes time to also establish those relationships that are going to pay off for you. And so it's a constant being in touch with them, and then finding out, did they leave? Where did they go? And if so, who's the next person that came in? That's a constant, thing that we do.
So what are some tips to give artists out there who are at that place where they're looking for a publicist? Is there something you can give them to say, okay, you want somebody who does this, and you want to stay away from somebody who doesn't necessarily give you, because in Hollywood, we have a lot of charlatans. We have a lot of people who will say they're a publicist, they're agent, they're this and that, and then you go with them and they just took your money. They didn't really give you anything. So what should they be on the lookout that says this is a real publicist who really is respected in the business?
They should look at that publicist history. Do they have a website? Do they have a social media feed? Go back and look at everything that they've got on there. That's going to give you already a great picture of who this person is. Then go ask them for their resume. Ask them for what have they done before. Ask them for a portfolio. On my website, I have a thing called the press room. We put up breaks from our clients. As they come in, we put them up. If you want to find out about me, you go to my website and you look at my bios. If you want to find out what I've done, go to my press room. And then you see all the hits that I'm getting for all my clients. Then you'll see somebody who's actually on it. If there's nothing on there, then you know this guy's probably not on it. Ask people who might know him, Google him. Really do the background research on this person. But the number one thing you want to see is what results have they achieved, because that's going to give you the idea of what they're going to be able to do for you. The fact that there's a lot of people in Hollywood that are full of shit, yes. There's a lot of people here that are full of shit. And so you just have to have that eye. I've been around a long time, so I see them coming a mile away. But there's a lot of people who don't. And
right. And unfortunately, there's more people who don't than do.
Yes. And there's a lot of people who talk a good game. So you really have to be able to say, oh, okay. Do you have a website? Do you have a portfolio that I can see? Ask for all those things. You're entitled if you're going to pay for it.
What has one of your favorite publicity projects been?
Oh, God, I have so many. I love Latina Magazine. I just felt like that was so groundbreaking. And
What's interesting, I don't mean to cut you off,
Sure.
but when I saw that you were the publicist for Latina, that kind of blew me away, because you never think of a magazine needing a publicist.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
It was key. It was absolutely key. And the thing is that we were very, very lucky because we had a unique story to tell. Here was a magazine for Hispanic women, and we were in English. Well, we're bilingual,
yes,
but we're in English. And that was a story to tell. And we were celebrating Latinas in the United States. That was a story to tell, right? So we were lucky enough that at that point, and I was able to pull out that unique story, and we were everywhere. We were in the New York Times, CNN, nightly news, NBC.
And it was a vital magazine for that time.
Correct.
We needed to see ourselves reflected back to us.
And that was a story,
yes,
right?
Yes.
What I would have been trying to do 10 years before. I was the person who suggested Jennifer Lopez as the very first cover for Latina Magazine. And she was just starting out, and that was when they were just announcing Selena. Mm-hmm. So we had her on the cover first. And look at what happened. She's become a great star, but I was very proud of that. And then, of course, I loved launching George Lopez on ABC, Ugly Betty on ABC. All of these shows.
So now, when you did those two shows, because they're ABC specific,
yes,
were you contracted by ABC? Or?
Yes, I was contracted by ABC, and I was very lucky that George is a supporter. And when I started out on his show, I was only going to be hired for a couple of months for the launch of the show. But George went to ABC and said, I want him for the run of the show. And I was able to stay on for six years.
Wow.
For the entire run of the show. It was one of the most gratifying experiences. Because not only George is really, really talented, but he's a very fair and lovely human being who wants to help. So it was really great all around. The production company was great. The cast was great. I loved also working with America Ferrara and Ugly Betty. I had actually worked with her when she did Real Women Have Curves, yes, for HBO.
Wow.
way back when. Lupe Ontiveros, oh my God, you know, I have worked with all the best and continue to, and they're just really great experience. They're gratifying to me because they give me the opportunity to be able to show the whole world great Latino people, great Latino stories, and maybe change their mind about who we are. American Family with Greg Nava, Raquel Welch, Eddie Olmos, like Isai Morales. It was a great show. It was a great cast. I did everything myself. I took that show from soup to nuts and did the publicity. I did the advertising. I did the EPKs. I did everything. It was great. It was gratifying. Even to the point where I was hired by Greg Nava to go and be the unit publicist for Border Town, the movie with Jennifer Lopez and Antonio Banderas, and then I ended up playing a role in the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was on the unit, and he was looking to cast a role, and then he said, "Well, do you have a SAG card?" I said, "Yeah, I have a SAG card." Okay,
Don't
you do
get
it.
rid of the SAG card, people.
Oh no. I was lucky enough that I joined SAG in New York way back when in the '80s, where if you were in Actors Equity, I was in an
You were
off-Broadway show.
grandfathered into SAG.
You could be grandfathered into the rest of the unions.
Yes.
So I joined SAG. And I've been SAG and SAG-AFTRA ever since.
Oh,
So,
that's fantastic.
yeah, so I did that small role there, but it's all been really gratifying.
What would you like your legacy to be?
That I am a great communicator. I was good to people, that I helped people, and that people benefited from my guidance and from my work.
Well, first of all, how did you get into PR?
You know, I sort of fell into it in that I went to school for communication and filmmaking. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I was working in New York. After college, I went to New York, and I was working in a post-production house, and a friend of mine worked at a broadcast PR firm, and she's like, "You need a change. Come over here and learn this." And that's sort of how I got into it, is setting up interviews, those on-site interviews that you would see like from a trade show or things like that via satellite and all that. I got into it that way, and it gave me a taste of all kinds of projects, from business to medical to auto to entertainment. And it really wasn't then until I got into entertainment when I moved back to LA.
Are you originally from?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'm one of the only.
And where did you go to school back east?
I went to school here.
Oh.
I went to school at USC. And
Okay.
and I met a boy, and that took me to New
Boy.
York.
That boy.
That'll do it. And so I followed him, and I loved New York, but I definitely don't have the cold was like, oh my gosh. And I stayed several years, and then I was done.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity then to move back to LA. I felt like I knew more people here. It was home.
Yes.
And but I kept then in PR, and I didn't skip a beat there. I just became a freelancer for the same company that I was working for in New York, and I was freelance then doing corporate stuff for several years until I had so many actor friends who would book a job. And not big jobs. I mean, they would book a one episode on a TV show or a supporting role in a film. And it occurred to me, hey, we can get a little PR for you if you want. Why don't we try this? So that's really where I gravitated towards in getting into entertainment PR, was just with my friends and testing it out on them. And it was then an acting coach and a career coach who both said to me, this is a business. Like, why are you not doing this for actors who really don't need and can't afford the full service, thousands of dollars, type of PR, but really just need it when they need it. And so that's when I started thinking, oh, I guess I really could do this. And I kept testing it out, and I tested it for about a year and a half to make sure that it would work and that there was a market for it and that it could last. And that's when Spotlight PR Company grew out of that.
Well, one of the great things that I love that you do is a la carte, right?
Yeah.
And so that if I need a bio, I can just call you and say, Tammy, I need a bio.
Yes.
Can you do a bio for me? And I don't have to worry about having to incur a cost that I don't have, meaning, that $2,500 or
Right.
$3,000 a month, but I can get
Right.
my bio done.
Right.
And so what I love that you do is for the actor who is trying to get themselves together.
Yeah.
Is that they can hit you every month, if possible, every other month, and say, can you do a bio? Can you help me with my press kit? Can you help me?
Exactly.
I've got a movie, and I need somebody to walk me through the red carpet. Can you be my person?
Right. And it was really because there are some great PR firms who are, rock solid, but yes, it's going to cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month with a 3-month commitment right up front. They want $6,000 right now. And most working blue collar, journeyman actors that I know can't afford that. I mean, that's crazy money, right? And also indie filmmakers and creators, because now there's more actors have branched into that. So that later now has become a whole nother sector of people that I work with as well. But you don't have that kind of budget. So it was really, okay, how can I make this to where you can still capitalize on building your buzz, building your momentum, gaining a little bit of press that might then help to add a little credibility to your project, add a little credibility to your career, give you a tool to use in your marketing to get better rep, right? Or to get, into an office. And that's really where all that spawned from. And it just became, well, there's a way to do this where I can create a finite package of, here's what the service that you get, here's the price you pay as you go, pay as you need it, and only when you need it. Whether it's a bio, and I do those often, or whether it's a press campaign of reaching out to help you, after you have a show or whatever, if you want to gain a little traction for that in the media, that's exactly what we do for a specific period of time, and that's all we focus on, that single campaign, instead of it being, we're going to work months on end, and it's going to cost you, it's an bottomless pit. What I discovered, it's interesting, and I think this is why PR gets such a strange rap, like not necessarily it doesn't leave a good impression with a lot of people, is because people at the end of the day, people go, well, what did I get? I spent $6,000 and what did I get? And often what I tell people is, really, your PR campaign should depend on what are your goals, your needs, and your budget. And they need to all line up, right? I mean, everybody's goal is to, be on one of the late night shows talking about some amazing, big, huge blockbuster project that they're in or whatever.
As PR
As
goes.
PR goes, mm-hmm. Yes. That's what everybody's, that's the ultimate. But you can't start there, and you shouldn't expect to start there, right? Everybody starts down here, and you don't want that to be your first interview because the pressure would just be insane. It's a graduation, the same way that when you book a smaller role that leads to a larger role, that leads to the starring role, that leads to the series regular or whatever, it's that same concept when it comes to dealing with the press.
What do you love about press?
I have always been a news junkie. I just am. I like to watch the news and hear about fresh things. But what I really love about being a publicist and working with rising actors and rising creators is helping them land their first piece of coverage, their first article. The excitement is, I enjoy helping other people, share their talents, right, with the world. And that's exciting. It's exciting for them, but it's exciting for me too, because it's not always easy to land somebody a little bit of coverage, but it gives me a challenge. And then when you land it, it's exciting. It's just exciting in general. So that's really why I do what I do. And that's why I work with people that I work with. I have some celebrity clients that I work with, but I don't work with them in the way you know them. So it's like if they're shifting gears, like if a well-known actress is shifting gears because now she's directing. So I'll work with her as the director, but not as the actress. She'll get a full service firm that'll help her and handle her with that. I take just this other little sector that we're focusing on. It's fun.
What would you tell somebody who's watching that's heard this interview and is going, I would like to do that?
To be a
publicist?
publicist? Oh, get an internship at a PR firm. Learn what you can. There are lots of good ways to crack in, get invited, volunteer to work at some of these festivals and some of these events. Start volunteering your time. I mean, it's like anybody who wants to try something. You're probably not going to get paid at first. You probably won't with PR either. So try and look for ways to volunteer, to gain experience, to, turn to your friends who may be creators, who need a little help, and test it out with
Now,
them.
do you take interns?
I do.
Okay.
I
so
do.
You could
Absolutely.
call her.
Absolutely. Call me. Yeah,
Email her.
for sure.
I want to be
For
of
sure.
service.
Reach out to me.
That's
and
fantastic.
And I do, absolutely. I'm always looking for people who want to learn how to write a press release. Reach out to me. You want to learn how to make pitch calls to press? Reach out to me.
Let's go into the world of social media
Okay.
as far as helping with publicity. One of the things that you do is you work in tandem with Heidi Dean, and you guys start breaking down how to use social media to start getting traction with publicity.
Yes. She and I created an online course this last year.
Which is excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And cause she's amazing. She's
She
a
is
total
amazing.
social media guru, and it's something that I don't do in my business. So it was a great partnership for her and I. And because
she's East
still,
Coast.
she's East
Yeah,
Coast
and you're
I'm
West
West.
Coast.
Yes, but we get together occasionally because that's the side of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Social media is the marketing element, right?
Okay.
So, and anybody can do it. You have total control. So you have to, and I know some people hate social media, and I understand, but treat it as this is part of my business, the same way you would take a class, to hone your skills, or you would read a book to understand a method, or put it into action. Treat it that way. Treat it as this is my business, so I need to spend a little bit of time. I need to understand it. If you're only doing one platform even, fine, but be on something. And then
And what's the why?
Why?
Why should an actor be on social media?
Because everybody's on it. Because even producers are looking at how many followers do those people have. Because it gives you control of being able to share with the world your talents, your skills. It's a tool. It's free that you can promote what you're working on so that you have to create the career you want, right? So you want to show people, I am doing this, even if you're not getting paid, even if it's creating your own projects, whatever. You're still doesn't mean just because you didn't get paid that you're not an actor. You still acted in something. You're still that's still an artist. So show it. Use what you've got. Fake it till you make it, right? Everybody's heard that saying. But fake it in a good way that feels authentic. And that's where I think people
I wouldn't even say fake it. I would just say start stringing those little things, because
Yes.
those little things then become a big thing.
Right.
That what you think is little is impressive to somebody else.
That's it. Well, because not everybody is working in entertainment. I mean, not everybody has the opportunity to, be in a web series or in a film, and it doesn't even matter the level. Not everybody has the skill, the drive, the ambition, the passion for it, the desire to create art, right? Because that's really what it is, right? And to share sort of all those talents with the world. A lot of people wish they could, and they just never start, which is sad. But you are, and if you are, own it.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what level you're
It's
at.
valuable.
Own it.
It's
is.
valuable real estate.
Yes.
Take advantage of
Yes, and social media is the easiest way to do that.
it. Good. I think that social media is crucial. It's part of your job now, especially for older actors who don't like technology, don't want to do social media, that you really can't get around it. You really have to stake your claim in one of the platforms and really start building, laying down breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
who I am.
Plant
This
the
is what I
seeds.
do.
That's it.
Put up old clips of what you do, pictures of you with other celebrities or other actors on set. One of the things that I see young people doing, and they are owning it. I mean, they are just crushing it, because they don't think what they did is nothing. They think it's huge. It's like, I was standing in front of the Comedy Store, and I was at the Comedy Store. What were you doing?
They
I
share
just
a
walked
lot.
there,
Yeah.
But it gets traction. When you're hashtagging and then you tag people on it, it starts to build
Can get
momentum. And older actors sometimes are so resistant to get on that platform, and it is so necessary for them to do that. And and I think older actors are missing the boat, because they should start giving some of their experience, sharing some of what they learned as an actor, what their trick is for auditioning, and especially those that book work, because that's another thing older actors have a problem with, is publicity. They're waiting for somebody to give them the job or call them, and it's like, nobody's calling you, not today.
Well, it's a different industry now than
but
it was.
But it was still a different industry back then, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
When I started, one of my acting teachers, Roy London, who I was with for 9 years, he was a stickler on making actors get publicists. Especially if they said, do not spend your money on anything frivolous. Put your money away, save it, so you can get a publicist. That's how Brad Pitt started. He was in my class. He started getting publicity, not on anything he did, but on who he took out.
Yeah.
He figured out, took a couple of actors out that were on TV shows. Who's that guy with so-and-so? Who's that guy with... And that's how he started his thing. I saw that with my own eyes. It had nothing to do with him even having a job at that moment. And then he booked a couple of TV shows, and then we heard a little bit more. But it's that groundswell. And so social media is crucial, I think, for every actor to have a platform, to have a voice, to be seen. I did a play reading. I auditioned. I see young actors talking about, I auditioned for so-and-so. They didn't even book the job, and they're just sharing that they auditioned,
Right.
And because of that, they're getting traction.
Yeah.
They're starting to, people are curious.
Well,
they want to know.
It's because they're willing to put themselves out there as being in the business, being a professional, being a working person within the industry. That's their business. And I think that it goes back to what I was saying before about it feeling icky.
Yes.
I think a lot of people who didn't grow up with social media and sharing everything all the time, it goes back to, I don't want to feel icky. I don't want to feel like I'm bragging. And I think you have to do it in such a way that it feels authentic. You know what I mean? So every person is going to have a way or a style that fits their personality. But you just have to then do it. And some people, it's because they fear, because they just don't know how. Well, so go on YouTube or get your granddaughter or whoever to show you, get some teenager to show you how to use it. It's just a platform. It's very easy. It's accessible. It's easy to learn. Pick one. I always say, just start with one. Master one platform. It's okay if you're only on one. And most actors these days, it feels like, are on Instagram is the one.
Yes.
And the expectations on Instagram are a little different. You don't have to post every day. Twitter, you really should be posting multiple times a day. Facebook, it's getting a little bit of a lot of people are not happy with Facebook right now. So
but the
a lot
older
of people are leaving
it. Older people are still on Facebook.
So it depends on who's your audience.
Yes.
Who are you trying to gain as your fan?
Right.
Where do you have the most potential to gain as your fans, right? So, but a lot of people are switching to Instagram, I think, because the expectations are, if I post 3 to 4 times a week, that's acceptable, as long as they're good quality posts that showcase. And also, I like to stick to the 80-20 rule. Now, that would be 80% of the time you're posting something that is fun, educational, entertaining, about your hobbies, about things that don't relate to you as an artist.
Say that again.
80% of the time, you should be posting stuff that is just, that is other, that is not business related.
That's being of service.
Yes, that is being of service. 20% of the time, it's okay to promote. Because otherwise, your people that are seeing you in their feed are like, oh, there they are, talking about themselves, showcasing, then it feels like you're bragging, or it feels like that's all they talk about. Don't they do anything else? And fans, people that don't know you, want to feel like they know you personally. They want to know details about you, about what you like to do in your free time. What's it like hanging out with you? Oh, so I tell people, create an editorial calendar for yourself. Meaning, if you're going to post 4 times a week, have 4 different topics, right? And one of those, maybe sometimes 2, if you have something premiering, can be about you as the actor. The others are about, every week I post about dogs because I'm a dog person.
Or you can build to you in the project. You could say, this director was fantastic.
Absolutely.
And then and he directed me in such and such.
Absolutely.
So you're still giving value, and you're not
exactly
bragging.
Exactly.
And it makes us want to come to your page again.
Yes. Well, that's it. Is that you're, it's if you do it in ways that are authentic and are of service and are giving kudos to somebody else, that's an easy way to address stuff like that. When you have somebody else is doing amazing work, and maybe you worked with them on a project, you're like, shout out to them. I love their nude project, and I was so, I know they're amazing firsthand because they directed me in such and such. So then it's like, it's a shout out and about that person.
Right.
It's not always all about me,
Right.
but it is a little bit. And here's my connection to them,
Right.
which is why it's authentic.
But it takes it to another level,
Yes.
right? You have a program you do with Heidi Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Can you unpack that for me a little bit?
Well, the one that we have out currently, it's called You Created It, Now What? It's really for the actor turned creator, because there are so many. I mean, that's the future. Everybody's pretty much creating their own thing. And it dives into how to take on press and how to take on social media towards helping you promote that project, promote whatever it is that you've created. So if it's something you have releasing, online, or whether it's something going to an indie festival or any of that, it'll showcase how they work hand in hand together. Right, she teaches. We broke it into, you have your press and you have your social media and how they work together, and how they cross over, and what you can do to get started in each to help you promote that project. So we launched it last year. It's been a lot of fun. It's an online thing, and
we're going to have the links for all of the programs that Tammy has in the description. You'll be able to get everything.
And if people go to my website, spotlightprcompany.com, join my mailing list, you'll get notified when things are coming up and what I've got going.
And you also have a online program that people can buy for publicity.
People can work directly with me. Mm-hmm. They can buy that, the press package, or I have a do-it-yourself one, the Buzz Building Blueprint. Where you can
excellent.
You can create your own,
Mm-hmm.
and so that will teach you how to create a press release, create a media list, go out. It gives you examples. It gives you options how to put it all together so that you can then go out, and that you can use over and over and over again.
She has worked with me. She's helped me on some campaigns. She's helped me with my bio. She's helped me with press release. She's my go-to person when I need something immediately. She helps me. So I would just encourage you to start expanding your sense of success. And even though you may not be a Brad Pitt today, doesn't mean you won't be one tomorrow. But it starts with those little steps. So whatever little job you're getting, start thinking about getting publicity for it. And like I said, in the description, we have all the information of how you can contact Tammy Lynn, how you can look at her online stuff, because she blogs. She's got some great stuff to share with you on her website, and she also has a wonderful online piece that she's done with Heidi Dean to help you with your social media. Mm-hmm. I can't stress this enough. For every actor out there, you could be the most talented person, but no one's going to know you if there is no press on you. And when you sit in your room and you start thinking about so-and-so's booking work and so-and-so's booking work, they're probably booking work because they got themselves a publicist. They started figuring it out, because nobody's calling you just because you're great. There are a million great performers sitting in their living room or by their computer, and nobody cares. I want to talk about walking the red carpet.
Okay.
Because as an actor, you work really hard to get the project. You got it. Now you get invited to walk the red carpet.
Exciting.
And that red carpet can be very intimidating.
Yes.
What is the best approach for an actor who wants to walk the red carpet?
Okay. You have the different parts of the carpet, right? And some carpets are big and some are small. Even if you go to a little film festival, maybe it's just a quick step and repeat and there's, one camera there, whatever. All the different things still apply. You want to, I always tell people, you want to practice a little bit at home. So figure out what you're wearing before that day and walk around in it. Own it. If it's a jacket, if you're a man, learn where are my lines at and how do I look best? And should I put my hand in my pocket or should I just stand there? And what's my best angle? Is it this side? Is it this side? Know how you look in that outfit. Women, try on those shoes before you start walking in a carpet, just so that you make sure that you're comfortable, because I think what happens is it's we all get a little nervous, right? You're going in front of lights and cameras and all kinds of stuff. So you want to make sure that what you're wearing, you look good and that you've had it on your body before, so that you work out if it's a brand new dress and there's something pinching me here, get rid of that. Figure out what that is. And you don't have to have a stylist to do that. Mm-hmm. Most people know what they like to wear and feel good about. You can get a stylist if you want, but you don't have to. But when it comes to the carpet, usually once you get there, there's a handler or somebody who's in charge of the list, right, that's got your name on it. So you need to find them immediately. That's the first person you should find. And I always tell people, arrive on the earlier side if you've got celebrities involved in the project and there's going to be a bunch of celebrities there. If you go early to the window, they're going to come late. Always, right? They're going to come within the last 15 minutes, probably 15 to 20 minutes of the window of the carpet. If you know you have an hour, come within the first 20 minutes. You're going to get more opportunity because there's nobody else there for them to shoot or for them to talk to. So the chances are you're going to get a little more of a window to take your photos, to maybe, again, often you have the photographers first, and then on down the carpet there might be somebody there with a camera to do a quick little interview. So
and sometimes though, if it's a bigger thing, they have the cameras and people interviewing you at the same time. And going down the line, a lot of times they're asking you the same question.
Yes.
So you have to come up with 3 to 5 different ways of answering that question, so it's not the same answer.
Yes. You need to talk in sound bites, and what that means is have 1 to 2 sentences to explain what your project is, like the storyline, the synopsis, and how you fit into it, what your role, and make sure you don't give away what you shouldn't be giving away, right? So you want to make sure you're teasing it without giving away the goods. But yes, you want to make sure that not every answer is exactly the same, because not only will you be like a robot by the time if you're doing it, answering the same question 6 times, it's not going to feel fresh or fun or whatever by the time you do that. So figure out a few different ways in which to say it, keeping it simple, because they don't have a lot of time typically on a carpet. It's not like a full interview where we're like what we're doing, where you can have time to talk in depth. They need something fast so that they can cut it in, because they're going to interview a lot of people and they're going to put one segment together about that project.
And I would also encourage and forcefully say, bring someone with you to walk you through. Like Tammy Lynn, you should not walk it by yourself.
Well, or it depends on the size of the carpet. I do think it's smart to have somebody there if it's a big carpet and a big project.
Because you get lost.
You do get lost. And what they do is go ahead of you and set up those interviews so that they're like, okay, and Lydia, you're going to go next, you're going to go here. And then they move you on down.
And it makes it less intimidating, because that carpet can get very intimidating, yes, especially if everybody's there at the same time.
Exactly.
And you can't get there if it's a bigger award show.
Right.
Or a bigger situation.
Yes.
They're bringing everybody kind of together. Like, it can be a little bit of
everybody's moving at the same pace, pretty much.
It could be a little hectic. Mm-hmm. So
it can, which is why go early, because
yes,
there's fewer people there. They're going to have more time because they're still working out the bugs, yes, and figuring stuff out, and you won't be competing, because that's the thing, is you don't want to be competing with a celebrity for the attention of a reporter, because they're never They don't have
They
time
don't care
for
about you.
Exactly.
They don't
They're going to
care
go to
about
the
you.
one
Yes.
that's the bigger name.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's
Yes.
that's just the way life is.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's why I tell people go early before all those other people, those big names, really get there,
Yes.
because they're looking for, well, we're here. Who's here? Who can we talk to? Who's available? And that's then when you're like, I am, and here's who I am. And usually on a carpet, they will have some way of introducing you. They have a card with your name and the project. You know, if you're associated and involved in the project that everybody's there for, it's much easier. You're going to have more opportunity than if you're just a guest, you know, somebody who's gotten on the list to walk the carpet.
Yes.
Always have a project coming up. You know, you need to have something to talk about, but also know why you're there and who you're supporting. If it's an event where it's not a premiere of like a project, but it's in some big event that you're at, know what the event is. If it's a nonprofit type thing or some sort of situation where it's a fundraising type thing, know a little about what that organization is and what they do and why you're there, why you're supporting it, because that's going to be inherently a question that you're going to get asked.
I don't think, you know, we see the red carpet, we see, you know, it looks glamorous. When you see actors who've been doing it a long time, they make it so easy.
Oh, yeah.
They have figured it out. And I think it's important for younger actors or actors who are just starting to find tiny red carpets.
Yes.
To get used to it.
Well, and that's why I say if you are part of a project that's on the festival circuit and they have some sort of, even if it's just a quick, easy, you know, step and repeat, maybe there's one photographer there, maybe it's just a backdrop and you're doing your own, and bring a friend to, you know, I always say bring a friend to any red carpet and to have them snap a few pictures of you too, because then you own those. Unlike if it's just Getty
Right.
images, you don't own that.
Right.
So, but use those smaller opportunities to gain that confidence, so that then, again, it goes back to start small, then the next step, and each time, so that when you're finally in that big project, it's not so scary and overwhelming, because there will be new things, sure, that'll come up, but you kind of feel like, oh, kind of done this before. I kind of get it. Yeah, and I look here and I look there, and there's a camera here and one here. I'm actually right now in the process of teaming up with a photographer to teach a red carpet class.
Awesome.
So that'll be coming out this year,
Awesome.
which is exciting.
Awesome.
Because I know it's something that you don't know all the ins
No.
and outs.
No.
So, and that was a need that I was like, oh, I need to be doing that. And he felt the same way. He wants to give the tips from a photographer's point of view. Here's what you should know. That would be for an actor or a creator or a writer or anybody who would walk, an editor or whatever, anybody who would walk a carpet.
And as soon as you put
You
it
know.
up, I will be posting
Yeah,
it.
okay, good.
Yes.
I will let you know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's scary but necessarily
Yeah.
to master.
Oh, yeah.
So for an actor.
Because you're right, celebrities make it look so easy.
Yes.
But it wasn't for them to begin with.
Right.
And the reason it looks so easy is because they have somebody helping them prepare. They're practicing. They're figuring out, well, what exactly am I going to say about this role? What stories am I going to share from working on this project? You know, that's what you need to have. Like, okay, so if I'm on the carpet, this is the kind of, I need to keep it small and short, and this is the story I'm going to tell, or this is what I'm going to say. But if I'm in an interview, you know, in more of a talk format, you know, sort of situation, I need to have stories to share with people. So what am I keeping tabs on? I always tell people, keep a journal when you're working. Write down the stuff that you learn, the stuff that's funny, the behind the scenes things that are, you know, shock you, or just things that you can then pull from later that we always forget. And then you're like, oh yeah, that happened. No, you want to have a library of, these are my notes from working on that project, whether you're the creator or the actor or the writer or anybody. Keep notes, because those are the things you're going to refer to later when I say, so what story do you want to tell? What stories you got from behind the scenes?
I would
Gotta
also
have
say-
those.
I would also say to get your smartphone out.
Oh, yeah.
And have a friend ask you the question, and
For sure.
you say it to the smartphone.
For sure.
And just so you get
Practice.
Yes,
Yes, because it's a skill,
It
right?
is.
Like anything.
It is.
And it needs to be practiced but not over rehearsed,
Right.
right? You can't look like a robot,
Right.
but it has to feel
Right.
natural, has to
Right.
feel good, has to feel authentic to you, but it has to still feel polished.
Right. And
And
you also
that's-
want to look like you. Life is great.
Exactly. Life is always great when you're on a carpet, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you want to feel like, oh yeah, I do this every day.
Exactly. And teaming up with your peers is the easiest way
Yes.
to do that, right?
Yes.
Create some sample questions. And they're, the questions that are usually asked are similar. So tell me about the project. What's your role in the project?
How did
What
you
was-
like working with so-and-so?
Exactly. What was it? Oh, you shot something in the snow. What was that like?
Yes.
How cold was it?
Yes.
It's just those kind of things that
Right.
people, there's a list of about 7 or 8 questions that you see all the time. And all you have to do is watch some red carpet interviews to see, well, what are they asking? What's the kind of stuff that they're asking? And you can get a feel for, well, that's probably what they'd ask me too. So let's use those to practice with. And then practice, practice, practice.
Let's talk about festivals and how you can do publicity for that, either as an actor, a creative, a director, an editor.
Mm-hmm.
How can you start taking advantage of having your project in a festival?
So I work with indie creators all the time, indie filmmakers who are launching stuff. There are definitely press outlets that cover festivals, that cover indie projects, that whether it's a web thing, web series that you created, or a TV series, or a film.
Who are some of those outlets?
Well, they're all pretty much any of the entertainment outlets.
Oh, okay.
If you just
Okay.
you can Google search, indie films,
Okay.
indie film festivals, and see. Also, go to a festival. If you're in a festival, go to the website that they put up and see if they have a press page,
Oh,
and
that's
see
smart.
who's covered them. Google search the name of that festival and see what outlets have reported about their lineup and what they're doing, because that'll help then you to figure that out. Also, the city, whatever city you're doing it in, well, those outlets might have interest in that because it's an event happening in their town, especially if it's a smaller city. And if you, a lot of filmmakers are getting into festivals in the city where they shot, like if they shot outside of a big city and it's a smaller one or whatever, and they have a festival, they're doing them there. And that's when you have then a local tie, and they like to cover things that are shot in that city, and then they're going to premiere or screen. Even if you're not premiering there, but you're still screening it there, that's okay. I work with people who are on the festival circuit all along, whether it's an actor or the filmmaker, creator, whatever. And we usually start with that very first premiere.
Okay.
And then we build from there. Because usually you have to have it releasing somewhere public. Again, it goes back to a reporter going, well, why would I want to cover this now? Because it's releasing, right? Because it's going to hit the festival circuit. And here's where it's starting. And it's nice if you know a couple of the ones that you're doing from the beginning, but sometimes you don't. And sometimes you don't get a lot of notice. So I always tell people, let me know when you start to submit stuff. When are you going to find out if you got in, right? That's maybe when we need to first connect is, okay, you're going to find out in, 2 months from now if you got in, you just submitted. So reach back out to me immediately when you know.
So you would help that filmmaker get their packet together.
Yeah.
And then help them with the festivals.
Well, I help them promote
Right.
when they get
in.
I help
Okay.
them put it out to the press. Here's the press release. And we can create, there's different strategies, and it depends on, again, what their goals are, right? If they want to do a campaign that starts in, Cincinnati, because let's just say that's where it's releasing, and then it's going to, Duluth, and it's going to Dallas, and it's going to, Miami. So, and they may all be within a, 6 or 8 week period, so we can kind of extend that press campaign through that whole time. And some just want to do it for the premiere, and then they're done because they don't know where they're going to screen it next, but they know it's premiering there, and then maybe they're posting it online. So we may do something that then says, okay, it's going to premiere here and then go online, and here's where you can see it then. So it just depends on what their strategy is for releasing as to, and I tailor that to each sort of person. When I first, somebody first comes to me, I'm always like, well, so what's your distribution strategy here? What do you have going? What are you doing? What do you know you've got, or what are you waiting to hear? And what's the timeline on that? And that's how we figure out then the press strategy timeline. It relates to that.